this train is being taken out of service. We apologize.
มีอีกเหมือนมันเองอ่านหน้าเบอร์ที่พูดเลย
Well, it's got seatbelts.
Yeah.
I was saying no, but when I saw that it had seatbelts. The first person.
Okay, there's no impact. But you know what? What's the problem? Sure, he's there.
Using the handrails in be very careful. There's no smoking on board. This includes e-cigarettes. There's no running. You're on a boat. You're not going to get very far. Bathrooms are located at the stern of the boat on the very first deck. Speaking of the word stern, for those of you who don't know, back of the boat's called the stern. We are just about to back out. Front of the boat's called the bow. Right side is called the starboard side, and the left side is called the port side. So you hear me using those terms throughout the tour, that's what I mean. And like I said before, most of what I'm going to talk about today is going to be towards the right starboard side of the boat. So as long as you can see towards the right side, you'll be good. All right, we're going to get out of here. I'll give the captain a moment to get us out of here, then we'll get started with our tour. So Long Wharf was built in 1710. It is the oldest continuously used wharf in the country. This is also where the British soldiers evacuated from after having occupied the city for quite some time on March 17, 1776. Coincidentally, just by coincidence, March 17th also happens to be St. Patrick's Day. And we have a lot of Irish people in Boston, so they throw a big party and a giant parade on that day for those two reasons. Now, Long Wharf originally was a third of a mile long. Walking down it today, you'll notice that it is not that long anymore, and that's because man-made land has been filled in on either side of the wharf. By the way, 3/4 of Boston is on man-made land. That's a lot of land, if you think about it. In fact, from where this boat is right now, all of the land you can see from every single side of the boat is man-made. How on earth did they create so much land? Well, Boston was built on the Shawmut Peninsula. Shawmut is a Native American term for living waters. This is in reference to the 3 surrounding hills that had fresh springs running through them. This was Beacon Hill, Pemberton Hill, and Mount Vernon. And they created this land by a process called wharfing out, in which they built wharves out into the water, They built a wall in between two wharfs. They filled in the empty space with earth from these three surrounding hills, displacing the water. Built another wall, filled that space with earth, etc., 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 over many, many years, thus creating 3/4 of the land in Boston. Really just an incredible feat to have accomplished, and I'll keep coming back to that throughout the tour. So to the right side of the boat, past all these buoys here, you'll see there's a shorter rusty bridge right here. This is the Northern Avenue Bridge. It's a turnstile bridge that's stuck in the open position. Boston keeps saying they're going to take it down, not yet, but the reason why I mentioned this kind of unassuming bridge is because just a little bit beyond it is where Griffin's Wharf used to be, and that's where the Boston Tea Party happened. You may have heard of the Boston Tea Party. So on December 16th, 1773, a group of patriots were very angry about the heavy taxation of tea and other goods from the British, especially because they were not being represented in their own country. And so in protest, they threw an entire cargo of tea off of 3 Nantucket merchant ships. This was 92,000 pounds of loose leaf tea, a lot of tea. And they did this stating no taxation without representation. And this is one of the sparks of the American Revolutionary War. To the left of the Northern Avenue Bridge, we're passing this brick building, has this wave of glass in front. This is the John Joseph Moakley Federal Courthouse. That wave of glass is there to represent a wave of justice coming over the city. A number of famous people have been put on trial here. For instance, Whitey Bulger, famous South Boston gangster, when after he was on the run for a couple of decades, when they caught him, he was put on trial there. The building was designed by I.M. Pei. He was a famous Chinese-American architect. He also designed, at least in our city, Hancock Tower, which is our tallest tower. You can't see from here. He designed the John F. Kennedy Memorial Library, famously designed the pyramid above the Louvre in Paris, so his work was all over the world. By the way, we do have this really pretty looking ship towards the right side of the boat. This is the Fame, this old looking ship. You can tell it's not very old because it's moving and the sails are not up. It does have an engine. So the Fame is a replica of a ship that fought in the War of 1812. She's actually new to Boston this year. She used to be situated in Salem. So she's a cool looking ship, so I figured I'd mention the Fame. So everything towards the right side of the boat right now is South Boston. If you lived here today, you call it Southie. If you were here in 1630, however, you would call it South Bay, because it is entirely man-made land. We have these mini cruise ships here that are probably here for Memorial Day. I believe that they do tours around New England. But more specifically, we're passing the Seaport District, this district with all these glass buildings here. It's a pretty newly constructed district. In fact, before all these buildings were up, this was all parking lots, which is one of the unfortunate reasons why you can never find a good place to park in Boston anymore. So behind the American Pioneer, this cruise ship here, you'll see a shorter a shorter glass building that's in front of the building that says Goodwin. When we clear the American Pioneer, you'll be able to see there's people walking around in there. This is the Institute of Contemporary Art. It's the second most visited art museum in Boston. By the way, that building was built in 2006, and until 2013, that was the tallest building in this district. So that will tell you how new this whole district really is. There's more I want to say about the ICA, but before I do, get out your cameras because we're about to get a great view of ourselves in this mirror glass building. We're going to get a nice mirror selfie here. There we are. That's us going by. Give yourself a wave. It's always cool. They tilted that building down so that everyone who goes by can see their reflection. And we have some kids that are waving at us. So let's wave back, of course. Now, not that building we just saw a reflection in, but the one that I was just talking about. Now you can see there's some people walking around in there. This is the Institute of Contemporary Art. Another thing about that building, every summer, the Red Bull cliff diving competition happens off of that building. So they bring in professional divers from all over the world, and they dive off of that building 90 feet into the water. I don't know why anyone would do that, but they do. It's pretty wild. But it does bring a lot of people to the city. It's super fun to watch. So that should be happening sometime in the next couple of months. And now we're passing Commonwealth Pier. On top of Commonwealth Pier used to be the South Boston World Trade Center. Now they're doing a lot of construction. They're putting in some shops and some restaurants. This will be a beautiful new expansion to our city in the next couple of months. And now back to Old Boston. We're about to pass the South Boston Fishing Pier. boats, they're called stern draggers because at the stern of the boat or the back of the boat, there are nets. The nets will drag. That's how they catch fish. These stern draggers go 150 miles off this fishing pier to George's Bank, which is one of the richest, most profitable fishing banks in the world. In fact, if you are going to get fresh seafood in the city of Boston, which you should, there is a good chance that it is going to come from this fishing pier here. At its heyday, the South Boston Fishing Pier would handle about 330 million pounds of fishing here. That was around the 1970s. The fishing industry has declined a bit, but they're still out there every day catching haddock and cod. Of course, we have boats around here catching some of the jewels of Boston Harbor, lobster, for those delicious lobster rolls. You gotta have a lobster roll before you leave Boston. That's really important. And now we're passing this white tent here. This one's pretty hard to miss. It's the Leader Bank Pavilion. It is a concert venue in Boston. We've had everyone from Billy Joel to Billie Eilish playing there. We'll have a whole bunch of people playing there this summer. Actually, Bob Dylan's supposed to be there this summer, so that should be a pretty big deal. It was really only supposed to be just a temporary structure, just up for a couple of concerts, but I thought it was so nice that they've kept it up for all these years, and now it's permanently a part of the city. And now we're sneaking up on this tan building. It has this odd-looking silver codfish on top. So the eye of this codfish will change different intensities of blue, depending on the wind speed. If the sun are down, you can see it changing those different intensities. The building that it's on used to be the Legal Seafoods Quality Control Center. They moved out last year, but they're keeping the fish, which is great. And you'll see Legal Seafoods all over Massachusetts and beyond. Pretty famous chain seafood restaurant in Boston. There's actually one at Long Wharf where we just pull it out of, so you definitely walk right by there. Now behind that building with the codfish, you'll see there are these strange looking triangular vents. They kind of look silver at the top. In fact, if you see it towards the left side, you look towards the left side, you'll see vents that look exactly the same. So these vents are venting the Ted Williams Tunnel, which is one of 3 tunnels and 1 subway line that run underneath the water. In fact, we just went right over the Ted Williams Tunnel. And those other 2 tunnels and subway line we'll be going over a little bit later in the tour. So this tunnel, this particular tunnel, was built as a part of the Big Dig construction project. The point of the Big Dig was to take the highways that were on stilts and bridges around the city and put them underwater in tunnels and underneath the ground itself to make the city itself much more beautiful and really just to give us a lot more space. Now it did that, it accomplished its goal, but it took way too long and it cost a lot more money than anyone was expecting. The Big Dig was supposed to end in 1998, started in 1990. It didn't actually end until 2007. The original budget was $2.8 billion. In the end, when all was said and done, it cost $22 billion. It went 20 billion with a B over budget. It became the most expensive highway project in the country. Quite a conundrum for the people of Boston for 17 years. And now we're passing this long white building here. You'll see it says Reebok on top. This is the South Boston Army Warehouse and Barracks. The building was built in 1910. During both World Wars, millions of tons of equipment were loaded into this building. Thousands of soldiers had boarded their ships to go to war from here. Now you can see it says Reebok on top. That's because today it's the headquarters for Reebok and a number of other companies as well. So this is one of the few instances that I am going to talk about something that is towards the left side of the boat. And that is Logan International Airport. We'll have planes taking off and landing throughout our tour. I can see one that's just taken off here and one that's about to land. So first thing I want to mention about our airport is this long rock retaining wall. So whenever you see a rock retaining wall, that's going to tell you that's man-made land. This is Logan International Airport. If you flew to Boston, you probably flew to Logan. And it's all man-made land. It's on 2,400 acres of it. It is the 16th busiest airport in the country. Generates about $7 billion a year. A plane departs or lands to or from Logan Airport about every 90 seconds. So it's a busy airport. You can see this smaller plane that's just landed here. That's a Cape Cod flyer. That's coming from somewhere in Cape Cod. Now, other things about this airport. Like I said, it consists of 2,400 acres of man-made land. An incredible amount. They created this crossing out method that I had mentioned at the beginning of the tour, but also using 3 former islands that now essentially sit underneath the airport that have basically just been flattened out to create this land. These islands were Governor's Island, Bird Island, and Apple Island. Governor's Island originally was owned by Massachusetts' first governor, John Winthrop. Bird Island sounds like a nice island to go to, but it was called Bird Island. This is a gallows island. This is where they would hang and then display the bodies of captured pirates. And birds would come to the island and feast on their rotting remains. True story. A little bit nicer was Apple Island. This is where a young John Chapman started on his trek across the United States of America, planting apple seeds as he went. You might know John Chapman a little bit better by his nickname, Johnny Appleseed. So back to the right side of the boat, we are passing the Connolly Container Terminal. Terminal with all of these colorful containers here. We don't have any container ships that are in right now. We should be getting one in pretty soon. But these containers, they're called intermodal containers. And they interlock on these giant ships in a very specific way to make them safe for shipment out to sea. And they go all over the world, carrying millions of tons of supplies per year. Now, of all the things you're going to see on this tour, this terminal is probably one of the sites that affects your own life the most, because 90% of non-bulk items in the U.S. get where they need to go to by ship. So the shipping industry is really important. If you've ever ordered anything on Amazon, for instance, you benefited from shipping in this country. This is basically how we get all of our stuff. Now, the shipping industry and the fishing industry were both really important parts of our city, especially in their formative years. So the first European immigrants to come to Boston were the English Puritans. They came here way back in 1630 to escape religious and political persecution from the British. When they got here, they realized that the original soil, really rocky, not very farmable land. They needed some way to make money through trading. So they took to the seas. They really looked at the sea and said, we'll farm that. They started fishing and they started building ships, making Boston one of the most profitable places for those industries in direct competition with England, which is one of the reasons why England started taxing them so much, which eventually led to the American Revolutionary War. Now, every piece of land that we've passed so far on our tour has been man-made land, which is pretty remarkable. Right now, we are sneaking up on our first instance of natural land on our tour. A little bit ahead of us, still towards the right side, we will see a fort. This fort is situated on Castle Island. Castle Island used to be an island, but it was filled in with man-made land connecting to South Boston. There used to be a castle here, it's called Castle William, but it was destroyed by the British in 1776 after having occupied Boston for quite some time. The fort that you see here today is called the Fort Independence. It was fortified in 1845. It was manned during both World Wars. Never saw any action. However, at one point, something awful happened here at the Fort Independence that inspired a pretty famous short story named Adrian. So at one point, there were 2 lieutenants that were stationed here at the Fort Independence, Lieutenant Green and Lieutenant Massey. They were having a game of cards on a Christmas Eve night. One of them accused the other one of cheating. They got in a bad argument, and they decided that they would settle this with a duel. And in that duel, Lieutenant Green ended up killing Lieutenant Massey. Now, Lieutenant Green was not very well liked among his men. They were pretty mad that he had killed their friend. So they got him drunk one night. They took him down to the basement of the Fort Independence. They chained him to the wall. They sealed him in with brick and mortar, and they left him there to die. That's a true story. What a horrible way to go. Well, about 10 years after that happened, Edgar Allan Poe, famous writer, was stationed here. He heard this horrible tale. He took inspiration from it to write The Cask of Amontillado, which is one of his most famous literary works, also about a man being entombed alive. And he got the inspiration for that story while he was stationed here. Today, Castle Island's a great place to walk around. It's really a good place to soak in some sun, soak in some history. So we are about to turn our boat around. Before we do, I want to mention there are 34 islands in Boston Harbor. And all 34 islands together make up the Boston Harbor Islands National Park. And there are 2 islands that I want to talk about today, because they together help me tell the story of the cleanup of Boston Harbor. There's one thing you'll notice about this water, it's really clean. We're really proud of that, because our harbor used to be quite the opposite. So the first island I want to mention to you is to the right side of the boat. It's very tall and it has a rock retaining wall around it. So this is called Spectacle Island. First thing I'm going to mention about Spectacle Island is that rock retaining wall. Like I said with Logan Airport, rock retaining wall equals man-made land. Spectacle Island is not entirely man-made. It used to be one of the shortest islands in the harbor, and now it's the tallest. It grew. How does an island grow? That doesn't seem to make any sense. Well, unfortunately, an island grows when the people of Boston decide that they need somewhere to put all of their trash. This became Boston's landfill. And for 50 years, from around 1910 to 1960, Boston and the city of Quincy put all of their trash on Spectacle Island. Thus, the island grew 36 acres. That's why it's the tallest island in the harbor today. The issue with this is that we have a really windy city. Boston has a lot of wind. If you put a bunch of trash on an island in a windy city, what on earth do you think is going to happen? It's going to blow right off into the harbor, of course. And that's what happened. This harbor was full of trash. It was disgusting. The people of Boston decided the best way to clean up this island would be to set the whole thing on fire. So that is what they did. They set this whole island on fire. There was so much trash on Spectacle Island. This fire, along with the methane gas, burned on and off for 10 years. People who lived on the coast of Boston claimed that occasionally the explosions from the methane gas would light up the night sky as if it was a firework on the 4th of July. Pretty bad, especially for the environment. Eventually, this fire did go out on its own. They capped off the island with dirt that they had left over from the Big Dig. And today, Spectacle Island is the second most visited island in Boston. People love coming here. We have ferries that run to and from Spectacle Island every day. There's over 5 miles of hiking trails. There's a beach. You can swim out into the water now that it's not full of trash. And I think that the moral of the story of Spectacle Island is that you could be a dumpster fire for 10 years and you could turn your life around. So if you're ever having a bad day, just remember the inspiring story of Spectacle Island. So that's really part 1 of the cleanup of Boston Harbor. I'm going to tell you part 2, and then we're going to take a break, just enjoy being out on the water on this really nice day. I'm so glad I could say that, because yesterday I could not, on this really nice day. So the second reason why our harbor was dirty was because they would pump sewage into it. That gets worse. The idea was that the sewage was just going to go out to the ocean, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. As tides do, it went out to the ocean, and then it promptly came back, went out and came back, on and on. Our harbor had a lot of sewage in it. The people of Boston, they sued their own city over this, and they won, rightfully so. So a structure was built. If you're looking towards the right side of the boat, a little bit further back, you'll see a structure that's composed of white egg shapes. And there's a windmill spinning around right next to it. This is the Deer Island Sewage Treatment Plant. Those white egg shapes, technically they're called sludge digesters. Not the most eloquent name, but it does describe what they do. They're each 140 feet tall. They pump in over 1 billion gallons of sewage through there a day from Boston and 43 surrounding communities. Essentially what they do is they separate the liquids from the solids. The liquids turn into water that is clean enough to drink. It's pumped down a couple miles out to the ocean. Solids, oddly enough, are turned into fertilizer pellets. And a good amount of these fertilizer pellets are sent to Florida to grow delicious Florida oranges. True. So the next time you're going to have a nice juicy Florida orange or a nice glass of orange juice in the morning, you can just remember to thank the good people of Boston for that. You're very welcome. So on that note, I'm going to take a brief break from the narration. Everyone, please enjoy being out on the water. Take lots of pictures. Again, my name is Liz. If anyone has any questions for me, please feel free to ask me. We're only about halfway through. We have a lot more history to go over. We'll be back soon. Thank you. now I'm going to talk about is this beautiful Nantucket lightship. So for those of you who don't know, Nantucket is an island off the coast of Massachusetts, and they have lightships because of the 90 miles that surround the island of the Nantucket shoals. Shoals meaning very shallow water. So they wanted to make sure that ships were not going to run aground commute to and from the island and to and from New York, because Nantucket is on the way to New York from Europe. So they placed 3 of these ships around the island to prevent that from happening. Now the sailors on these ships, they would work for 3 weeks on the ship, and then they would take 3 weeks off. Now these were basically mobile lighthouses. So essentially, you get where you need to go, you ignite that light, and you sit there for 3 weeks straight. You needed something to do. They needed a hobby to pass the time. So they started basket weaving. And this is how we get the Nantucket lightship baskets. These are world famous baskets that are hand woven and hand designed by the sailors. If you have one of these original lightship baskets, you have quite an antique on your hands. One basket can be worth up to $30,000. So now we're passing Piers Park. You'll see at the end of Piers Park, there's this monument, kind of looks like a spaceship. So this commemorates Donald McKay. He was a famous master shipbuilder in Boston. He built clipper ships. I'm going to talk a little bit more about him as we get a little bit further into the tour. I just wanted to mention his monument here. Now, a little bit further inland from here is the former site of Old Immigration Hall. So it's not there anymore, but around the 1840s, a lot of Irish immigrants came to Boston to escape the potato famine. When they got here, they would have registered at Old Immigration Hall, climbed the golden stairs, which were not actually golden, but they were called that because America was a place of golden opportunities. They went down Marginal Street, they took the penny ferry across the harbor to Boston proper, and they tried to find work in this new world. Unfortunately, they were met with many signs on shops that said Nina, and this stood for No Irish Speaking. Boston is much better than that today. In fact, we now have the 2nd largest population of Irish people in the world, only second to Ireland herself. And now we're sneaking up on a really cool part of the city. We have this whole patio where they're building some type of igloo, so I don't know what's happening over there. But we have this patio and this beautiful tall ship here. And we can wave at these people here. They're having a fun time day drinking. So are all of you. So this ship, hello everyone. The ship is called Tall Ship. So she arrived about 6 years ago from Canada. Someone purchased her for $1.5 million, and they have turned her into a high-end floating oyster bar. It's a really fun place to go to. There's a beautiful bar on board the ship, on the patio. There's food, there's games, there's live music. It's a really fun place to be, especially today, now that it's getting nicer, nice Memorial Day activity to do. They're open, I believe, 11 to 11 today. So if you want to drink on a boat, that's not this one, of course, definitely go to Tall Ship. It's a fun place to hang out. Clipper Ship Wharf. You can see where it says clippershipwharf.com on top of these very expensive condos. Anything on the water is going to be real pricey. That name, Clipper Ship Wharf, commemorates Donald McKay. He was a famous master shipbuilder in Boston. He built clipper ships. Clipper ships were known as the Greyhounds of the Sea. They were very fast. His most famous clipper ship was the Flying Cloud. It was built in 1851. And on its first voyage, it traveled from New York to San Francisco around South America in a record time of 89 days. Thankfully, it does not take 89 days to get from New York to San Francisco anymore, but that was a record that stood for over a century. That record wasn't broken until the 1980s. And when a sailboat broke that 89-day record 100 years later, it could only manage to break it by 4 hours. So that will tell you what a master Donald McKay was at his craft. Very famous guy in his day. Now, one thing that you will notice as we go throughout this tour, a lot of the buildings that are on the water are either brand new or they're being built. There's a lot of brand new apartment buildings, brand new hotels. We have that entirely brand new innovation district with all that glass. We have this building that says Live Eddie at the top. Everyone asks me what that means. These are brand new apartments, expensive because they're on the water. They're called Eddie Apartments. You don't know why? Because the guy who owns the building is named Eddie. It's a very male thing to do, honestly. So anyways, we have a lot of new buildings out on the water. That confuses people because Boston's an old city. The reason why everything on the water is new is because people didn't used to want to be near here, this water. This used to be filled with sewage and trash. Nobody wanted to be on Boston Harbor. The buildings that had built on the harbor back then had teeny tiny windows that looked out into the harbor. Nobody even wanted to see it. In fact, back when the harbor was disgusting, if you were out here as a fisherman, if you were working out on the water, by law you needed a tetanus shot, by law, because it was so disgusting. And so now, since we've cleaned up the harbor, by building that sewage treatment plant and by cleaning up Spectacle Island, we've come back to our waterfront roots. People want to be out on Boston Harbor. And of course, all of you are a testament to this, because now people want to take harbor cruise, so thank you. Waiting for our Charlestown Navy Yard ferry to get ahead of us, this smaller ship towards the port side. And now we're sneaking up on this green bridge here. This is the Mystic Tobin Bridge. It's called that because it runs over Mystic River, and Governor Tobin was the governor when it was built. Not the most creative name, but an interesting color. It is painted monster green, which is in reference to the Green Monster at Fenway Park, where our Red Sox play. Bostonians love their sports. It's a big, big part of our culture. You'll see that as you walk around the city. You see people wearing Red Sox caps, Patriots jerseys, absolutely everywhere. A lot of Celtics and Bruins stuff. We'll pass TD Garden in a bit, where the Celtics and the Bruins play. The bridge itself is longer than what it looks like from here. The entire thing is 2.5 miles long. It's mostly a land bridge, but around rush hour, Bostonians do tend to call it the world's longest parking lot, because that's exactly how it feels when you're trying to get to work. So the next site that I want to talk about is actually ahead of us. I'm going to start talking about it a little bit early before we get to world famous Constitution and some other cool stuff. So ahead of us, slightly to the right, you'll see a tall stone obelisk monument. This is the Bunker Hill Monument. It commemorates the Battle of Bunker Hill. The Battle of Bunker Hill didn't happen on Bunker Hill. It was supposed to. The Patriot General told his men to go to Bunker Hill. They accidentally went to Breed's Hill, and it's still called the Battle of Bunker Hill. Nobody really knows why. Even more odd, the Bunker Hill Monument actually sits on Breed's Hill where the battle happened. It's this odd, mistaken history. Now, this so-called Battle of Bunker Hill was one of the first major battles of the Revolution. During that battle, the Patriot General told his men, don't fire till you can see the whites of their eyes. We've heard of that famous phrase before in history class. He told them that because they were running out of ammunition very quickly and they needed to save it. The monument itself is 221 feet tall, and it's 294 steps all the way to the top. And now we are sneaking up on the Charlestown Navy Yard. Second oldest Navy Yard in the country, only second to one that's in Washington, D.C. It is a decommissioned Navy Yard at this point, not building any new ships here anymore, but at its heyday, they would be building about one ship a month, which is pretty productive, and now it's part of history. So this first ship we're sneaking up on, the gray ship, this is the U.S.S. Cassin Young. She is a World War II Fletcher-class destroyer, one of the last ships to be hit by a kamikaze pilot off the coast of Okinawa. When it hit, unfortunately, it did kill 22 sailors, but did not sink the ship herself. So here she stands at the Charlestown Navy Yard as a floating museum. And on the other side of the Navy Yard, we have the jewel, absolute jewel of our harbor, the world's famous U.S.S. Constitution. She was built in 1797. She is the oldest commissioned warship still afloat in the entire world. She is most known for a battle of 1812 off the coast of Nova Scotia against the HMS Guerriere. During that battle, the HMS Guerriere noticed that her cannonballs were bouncing off the Constitution, and that caused someone to exclaim, "Huzzah! Her sides are made of iron." Her sides are not actually made out of iron, but it did give her the nickname Old Iron Sides. Her sides are made out of 22-inch thick Georgia live oak. She sank the HMS Guerriere in only 35 minutes. And at the end of the battle, she had 19 cannonballs stuck in her side. So that will tell you how strong she is. She has fought in 42 battles. She has not lost one. In order to maintain her active duty status, she must travel at least 1 nautical mile per year. So every 4th of July, we'll take her out. She'll travel down to the Fort Independence, where we turn around. She'll basically do the same route that we've just done. And she will fire a 21-gun salute from her very own cannons to honor her. That's always something really cool to see on Independence Day. I should also mention, normally the Constitution is open every single day except for Mondays, but she's open today because it's Memorial Day. So she's open, I believe, 11 to 5 today, and she'll be open the next couple of days. It's completely free to get on board. You can learn a lot. Very cool destination. This next bridge we're passing is the Leonard P. Zakin Bridge. You might notice there's 2 structures on top of the bridge. They are built to look like the Bunker Hill Monument, and the cables that are coming from these structures are to look like the rigging of the Constitution. So it was built with Boston's history in mind. It runs right over the Charles River. The Charles River has been nicknamed the most educated river in the country. It runs right past Harvard, MIT, and Boston University. And of course, behind the Zakin Bridge, TD Garden, very important part of Boston today, home of the Boston Bruins and the Boston Celtics. And there's a game playing over there. That place is packed. And now we're passing one of my favorite parts of the city, the North End. This neighborhood with all these brick buildings here. So the North End is a predominantly Italian neighborhood. By the way, if anyone's wondering, where's a good place to get dinner? Right here. Go to the North End. It has some of the best Italian food, incredible Italian restaurants. This is the food mecca of Boston. You gotta go to the North End at some point to get dinner. Of course, go to Mike's Pastries and get a cannoli. Mike's Pastries is some of the best cannolis and puff pastries around. That's another famous staple of our city. Of course, there's also a white church here at the North End. This is the Old North Church. It is known for Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. So the sexton of the church on that April night was told, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. He saw the British soldiers coming by sea. So he hung 2 lanterns at the top of that church to signal to Paul Revere and 12 other people, who then rode horseback through the streets, letting the people of Massachusetts know that the British soldiers were coming. Paul Revere got all the way to Lexington before he was arrested. The very next morning was the Battle of Lexington and Concord, the very first battle of the Revolution. And the first shots were fired. These were called shots heard around the world. And now we're sneaking up on Constitution Wharf, named that because this is where the U.S.S. Constitution was built all those years ago. Today, as you can see, it is a Coast Guard station. So we're passing a couple of Coast Guard ships that are here. So we have this smaller black ship, the Pendant. So this is a buoy tender. And you'll also see we're sneaking up on these white ships that are all here. In fact, I think we had one of them pass us and we were a little bit further out, you may have seen. So these are Sentinel class cutters. They're pretty brand new, they're pretty new to our fleet. They're going to do things like search and rescue, national defense if needed. All Sentinel class cutters are named after Coast Guard heroes who died in action. The U.S. Coast Guard was founded in 1790 by Alexander Hamilton. Originally, it was part of the U.S. Treasury. During war times, part of the U.S. Navy. And as of 2003, it's now part of Homeland Security. Their motto is Semper Paratus, which is Latin for always ready. And now we're sneaking up on Battery Wharf. You'll know it because of the blue and brick buildings on top. This is Battery Wharf Hotel. Battery Wharf is where the 54th Regiment of the U.S. Civil War shipped out of. very important regiment in U.S. history. It was the first all African-American volunteer regiment in the country. You may have seen the award-winning film Glory, starring Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman. That will tell you a little bit more about that remarkable part of American history. And a little bit further inland from here at Boston Common, there's a monument that's dedicated to those souls as well. So while we're still passing the North End, I want to tell one of my favorite stories about Boston history. This is a very odd story, but it's also tragic. It's a mixed bag. So this is the story of the Boston molasses disaster. This one's wild. So at the North End, in the year 1919, they had a very large vat of molasses. And they handled this molasses because there were 8 rum distilleries around the area that would use it to create rum. It was a particularly warm day in January. This vat had been made very poorly, and it exploded. And 2.5 million gallons of molasses rode down Commercial Street going 35 miles per hour. You may have heard of the phrase slow as molasses. It was not slow that day. It was quite fast. Waves of molasses as high as 25 feet high. Unfortunately, it was not without fatalities. It actually killed 22 people, over a dozen horses. It destroyed houses and homes. It was a terrible thing to have happened, but a little bit weird that of all things, it was molasses that did this massive damage. Some people claim you can still smell molasses at the North End. I think you're probably just smelling Mike's pastries. You'll have to go to the North End and take a whiff, see for yourself. It did take 6 years to clean it all up. That's a sticky 6 years. But the day after it happened, the Boston Herald did write about it. The big bold headline that said Boston Molasses. Came up with that one. I also want to mention there's a walkway, you may have seen it throughout the tour, that's hugging these piers and wharves here. This is the Boston Harbor Walk. It's quite a newly constructed walk. It was built to bring Bostonians back to their roots, back to their waterfront. The entire walk is 47 miles long and counting. It's long. That's because there's a new law in place. If you are going to build out onto the water, you have to include part of the Boston Harbor Walk, because Bostonians should always be able to see their waterfront, especially now the water's so clean. One place where there is no harbor walk, however, is Union Wharf, which we have just passed here. This is the wharf with the 3-story brick condos on top, kind of juts out into the water. So these condos, they were built in the 60s, so it's been grandfathered in. There's no walk here. The reason why I mention these condos, if you want to know about the horror that is Boston real estate, these condos, they're 3 stories, they have 3 bedrooms, they come with 2 parking spots. You can purchase one condo for $5 million. Massachusetts is actually the most expensive state to live in the United States. We are number 1. We're number 50, depending on how you look at that. So now we're passing a gray but not bad view of the skyline. This is 10 times better than it was yesterday. Still a good picture. I do want to mention there's a clock tower right in the middle. This is the Custom House Tower. It was Boston's very first skyscraper, fully constructed in 1914. Today it's a Marriott hotel. Interesting tidbit about the Custom House Tower. There are 4 clocks on top of that tower. None of them are going to tell you the same time. This has to do with the wind. Big windy city. So when it gets really windy, the wind will move the hands of the clock. So you can see time speed up on one side and maybe time slow down on the other. Bostonians lovingly call it the 4-face line. So if you're looking at the Custom House Tower, to the right of that, right past this green park, you'll see a large green dome. And behind that is a taller white building with a gold dome. So that white building with the gold dome is called Faneuil Hall. It was called the Cradle of Liberty. This is where the Sons of Liberty met to discuss the Revolution. In front of that, the green dome is called Quincy Market. It is the oldest open-air market in the country. Today, it's a great place to eat. It's a great place to shop. This is about a 2-minute walk from where we're going to dock. So that's a great place to go to get some delicious Boston food and, of course, learn a lot more about history. Some of the biggest decisions made in the Revolutionary War were made right there at Faneuil Hall. also want to mention there is a white flagpole that's at the end of Long Wharf. It's about to line up with the middle of Long Wharf, and we will briefly get to see the old State House. So in just a couple minutes, it'll line up. I'll let you know when I can see it from my perspective, and I'll give you some info on what you're looking at. So from my perspective, there it is, right down the middle of Long Wharf, Gold Dome. That's the old State House. Now, first of all, that's the original starting point of Long Wharf. That was built on the waterfront. That will tell you even more about the massive amounts of man-made land in the city. Also the site of the Boston Massacre. So the story goes, outside the old State House, there's a group of British soldiers. They were being harassed by a couple of patriots. The patriots didn't like that the British soldiers were there. They were throwing ice, and snowballs, and rocks at them, being very rowdy. The British soldiers fired into the crowd on impulse. There is speculation that one of those soldiers may have been hit by one of those rocks. His gun went off. All the other soldiers firing into the crowd following him. The truth of the matter is we're never really going to know exactly what happened on that day. There are many different personal accounts. A lot of them are really conflicting. The reason why it was so important to Boston history was because of the reaction. This was in every newspaper. Every newspaper had the big bold headline, Boston Massacre, exclamation point. It got everyone talking, and it convinced a lot of people it was time to separate from the British Empire. All right, so we are about to pull right back into Long Wharf. Last site I want to mention to you is ahead of us, the New England Aquarium. This is a great place to go to in our city. We have a partnership with them. We run their whale watches. That's another cool thing to do. The aquarium itself has over 3,000 species of fish, over 20,000 animals. It's home to one of my favorite Bostonians, Myrtle the turtle. She's a very famous turtle in the city. They believe Myrtle is about 100 years old. She looks fabulous. So go say hi to Myrtle. All right, so we are pulling right back into Long Wharf. Thank you all so much for being here on this lovely day. Please enjoy the rest of your stay in our city. Special thank you to Captain Bill and the crew for all of their hard work. As you exit the gangway, please make sure to use the handrails and be very careful. And if you enjoyed your tour, please let me know. I'll be at the end of the gangway to bid you all farewell. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Have a great Memorial Day and enjoy Boston.
Never have I ever had that problem.
We are all set to disembark, everyone. As you're exiting, watch your step, watch your head. We're going towards the right, and enjoy Boston. Thank you.
Oh yeah, true.
was that chicken. And we got it out with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we like going home?
Right? So with all the big be there for her. Because like, like I never my brother is amazing.
And he's like, well, I go to the gym. I'm like, wait, oh, you go to the gym before? అదే మరి అండి ఇదంటే ఇట్లే బిగ్ పాత్ ఉంటుంది నువ్వు పాత్ పట్టుకుని అలా పోతుంది